What's up, everybody? It's your boy Wings of Redemption, and we're back with Chaos Theories. Come on. And we're
going this time.
We're going. We're trying to just do something a little bit different here. And we're actually trying to put the cameras on it as well. And we're going to do something that's a little controversial. I want to go ahead and put a disclaimer out there. All these theories are not of machinimas or anybody of that take. These are just personal opinions and personal views based on knowledge that was gained and created. And this series is by no means a... What am I looking for here?
Just look.
We're not a textbook.
Yeah, we're not experts. We're just, and this goes with everything we've said. Like, we see a lot of people in the comments like, you guys need to research more. Like, look, if you're coming to Call of Duty channel looking for like textbook information on any of this stuff, you're in the wrong place. We're just shooting the shit, giving opinions. There are opinions. They don't represent YouTube. They don't represent machinima. They don't represent anybody other than two guys talking to each other on Skype. So
this is basically what this is. Two guys hanging out talking about theories and just shooting the shit. And if you like them, cool. Make sure you leave the video a like. If you don't like them, leave it a dislike. It's up to you. We were talking about a controversial subject, 9/11, and I want to go ahead and say that we're not going to try to discredit anybody that may have died during the 9/11 attacks. Because we have two different basically theories. Eric seems to think that the towers fell on their own. I seem to think the towers fell because George W. Bush wanted them to fall. But who wants to go first? You want to throw your case first? Or you want me to throw mine first?
No, I think you should go first because if you feel like they came down, basically you're saying that look, this thing was put together. This was a conspiracy. 9/11 was staged by the United States government as grounds to go to war. I mean, that's basically your stance, right?
That is my stance, yes.
So why don't you talk about, how you feel about it, and then I can sort of try to, give you my rebuttal on why I think it's not true.
All right. For those of you who don't know, I have a background in metallurgy, and metallurgy is the understanding of metal and how metal melts with other things, how chemistry happens within the metal, and how you change the chemistry of a metal to make something else. And with this knowledge of my understanding of it, I look at the Twin Towers or the two planes hitting the Twin Towers, and I think, man, how the fuck did those two planes bring the towers down? I've seen the videos. I've seen like the construction where they basically with one beam fell, another beam fell, pop, 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 pop. But the fact is, the support beams on the Twin Towers, which basically was the whole center core of the building, which was encased in concrete, which is important, basically went up the whole flight of thing, and that held the entire weight of the building in itself. I don't know how much force or what would they measure that in with something just falling? What's something falling measured in? I'm unfamiliar with how you basically measure something falling. It's not coming to the top of my head right now. But basically, the top 20 or so floors of the Twin Towers, I just don't see the weight there collapsing the rest of the towers. And one thing I know about, I don't really know about building demolition to a key, but I know about how metal reacts to things. Mm-hmm. And for the fact that the top 20 floors of that tower to come crashing down and to split those metal beams at a 45-degree angle would be almost physically impossible. Because I don't know if you remember like tanks in World War II. One thing the Germans did to the Tiger tank that the United States didn't have with the Shermans was basically they had what you call sloped armor. And when you slope steel, it makes it thicker. It makes it harder to basically compress. So busting at a 45-degree angle is very unlikely.
Sure. Yep.
So what that leads me to believe is, I don't know if you guys ever seen any kind of demolition crews actually destroy a building. There's this thing called controlled demolition. And when you basically control demolition of a building, you make it so the building falls in on itself. So it's one big neat pile right where the building used to stand. So it doesn't fall over on, the building beside it. Doesn't fall over on the building next to it. It doesn't fall into the traffic. It falls straight down on the foundation. And both of the towers fell straight down on the foundation, almost at free fall speed. That's undeniable.
Yep.
And if you look at some pictures, like I'm gonna put some pictures in the description of this video, you can see how basically the main supports of the building had been cut just like they would in a demolition thing. Generally, you cut them at a 45-degree angle, you slab a fucking piece of explosive in there, and then when you're ready to go, you punch that button, and that fucking main support goes out. The rest of the building comes down right with it.
All right. Okay. So there's the first part of your problem with the whole thing. Excuse me, is the way the towers came down and some of the evidence that you've seen in the.
Well, I'd like to also say that there's been other buildings hit by planes, and they didn't fall.
What else? I know you've got a couple other beefs with some other things. One of them is the Pentagon, right? Well,
the Pentagon. The fact is there's no footage of a plane. There's no plane wreckage. Same thing with the field in Pennsylvania. There's no plane wreckage. The hole that the plane left is not big enough for a 767. The hole in the Pentagon is not big enough for a 767 to hit, and it just doesn't make sense in that matter. And another thing is the center supports of the World Trade Center was wrapped in concrete. Anybody knows that concrete is resistant to heat. And that would make it even less temperature actually getting to the main steel support beams, even if the jet fuel was capable enough to basically melt it. And here's some other things. To melt steel, ternium steel, you have to get to degrees of 1400 degrees Celsius. You can do it at 500 degrees Celsius, but it takes a long time, something like 2 hours. And that jet fuel would not sit around there for 2 hours. That jet fuel sat there for like 10 minutes, and it made a molten pool of metal. There was so much molten metal that actually happened from that tower that it basically was there 2 or 3 days after the fact in the rubble.
Right. Okay. All right. So you've sort of given a lot of the popular theories as to why people call them bullshit on 9/11. So we actually, Wings and I, we talked about this a little bit in preparation, like just to, basically told me, hey, I think we should do, 9/11. A lot of you guys have been asking for it in the comments section. So we started talking about it, and, the basically what you were saying is, the Bush administration needed to go to war, and they needed some very strong, something very strong to enable them to get Congress to pass the War Act and authorize them to go down the road they were going to go, which, first was Afghanistan, then they came up with the bullshit weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and the rest is history and lots of...
One big river of flowing bullshit.
Flowing bullshit and flowing cash and a lot of dead Americans.
And young blood, blood of young soldiers, all of it right to a river to Iraq.
All right, so let me give you my thing. I ended up doing some looking around on this, okay? And the reason was because, I've known that there's 9/11 conspiracies out there. And one of the things that we talked about, because I had told you that I didn't think it was staged. And, you said, you don't want to believe that your country could have done something like that. And I had basically said, look, I know that, the United States has gone to war for profit many times before. We just talked about Vietnam with the JFK thing.
Hell, we used to be known as the Doughboys.
Well, yeah, other than World War II, what wars have we gotten into in the modern era that weren't driven in some way by profit, right? But here's the thing. I just couldn't believe that, our government would be willing to sacrifice not only all the people who died in the attacks, from the people who were in the towers to the policemen, the firefighters, the first responders, thousands and thousands of people. I'm no fan of the government, and I know, all the shit that goes on, but I just had a really hard time grasping it. And so I ended up doing a little bit of looking around. And I'm happy to say, and here's where I'm going to try to basically, disprove everything that you've just said, because I basically looked up all of the stuff that you've talked about, right? Here's the first thing. Let's talk about the towers and how they came down. What you're talking about, the 45-degree angle, is thermite. They put thermite, 45-degree angle, and they can take down the supports of buildings that way. So the what you see, those pictures that you showed me of, and you can put links to the description so everybody can check all this stuff out. But basically, there's pictures of the World Trade Center, and you can see these support columns are cut at 45-degree angles, the steel columns. Those were cut after the towers came down by the cleanup crews, because they were bigger, and there's actually video of one of the cleanup guys on site talking about how they were taking chunks of the support columns down, because there was still a lot of stuff left, tall in comparison. debris that was, pieces of the building that were still there after they came down. They had to clean all this shit up. What you see is chunks of the support columns that the workers were cutting away, and there's actually video. You can find it. Basically, all the stuff I'm going to talk about, there's YouTube videos called 9/11 Debunked, and you can search it, and you can pretty much find debunking videos on every single conspiracy theory involved in 9/11. So what happened was, after the towers came down, the workers had to take all the rubble away, and they started cutting down the support beams. And there's video of a guy who's showing what they did, and there's some that are still left that haven't been cut yet. Next thing would be the Pentagon.
And they're cutting them in 45-degree angles, kind of like trees, right?
They're just cutting them down, chopping them. That's just
so they fall a certain way.
Yeah, right. Because they didn't want the rubble to fall outside of they wanted the rubble to fall in on itself. They didn't want these big steel beams to fall and hit anything else. So they cut them at 45-degree angles so they would fall in towards the crash site and not outside. Okay, so that's that part. The next part would be the Pentagon. The hole that you're talking about, actually, if you look, there's another 9/11 debunked video that talks about this. The hole is big enough. And there is video. It's really shaky, obviously, but a missile, the cruise missile, would not come in at the trajectory that it came in if it was not a plane. The little video evidence that there is, the plane comes in almost, at ground level, right? It was very, very low. A cruise missile would not be able to fly parallel to the ground at under 100 feet and hit the building. You couldn't do it.
I understand. We never said a cruise missile hit it, but the fact is, you're trying to tell me that a guy that just learned how to fly a plane was able to fly a 767 parallel to the ground.
Dude, they hit light poles. There's damaged light poles.
I understand that. A 767 is huge. It's going to take out whatever fucking hits.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There's a bunch of shit that it fucking hit on the way to the Pentagon. It hit this giant power generator. One of the engines smacked into it, and there is debris. They did find pieces of the plane. Okay, so that's another video you gotta look for. But the hole is the size of the plane. The trajectory of it couldn't have been a missile. It couldn't have been a missile. Missiles come. Shit.
There's this thing called a Hellfire missile, which is standard on most of the fighter planes.
Yeah, right. They got them on Apaches too.
Yeah, and what? You sure it wasn't a Hellfire missile they just launched into that motherfucker?
You don't think anyone would have saw that?
Do you think?
Where would they fire? Where did they fire the Hellfire from?
From the plane?
From what? What plane?
A fucking fighter jet.
It wouldn't. Yeah, but that's the thing. That if you fired a air-to-surface missile, it's going to follow a trajectory from the plane to the target. Mm-hmm. It's not going to fly level off at 50 feet above the ground and then fly straight.
I understand that, but the fact is, I've seen the video that you're talking about, and it's 3 seconds long.
Yeah, you can barely see anything.
And there's pretty much nothing there to see, and it just looks like a cover-up video. I'm trying to say that I don't see a guy that can't even land a plane, fly a 767, 100 feet off the ground into a fucking building. I don't care how many light poles you knock over. You know what else can knock a light pole over? A fucking F-450.
Okay, all right. So let me move on to the last one, which would be United 93. Right.
Yeah.
You're saying there's a crater and they didn't find it. Mm-hmm. Dude, there is a shit ton of not only eyewitness reports of it, but I saw so many pictures of debris of this plane. They say they actually recovered 90% of the plane. There was a shit ton of debris, dude. There's pictures of it everywhere.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: if they recovered 90% of the Pennsylvania flight, why couldn't they recover 90% of the flight that hit the Pentagon?
There's pictures of debris of that too.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of the debris. It's enough to a person holding his hand.
But see, we're going off of the evidence that was chosen to be published. Okay, mm-hmm. So when you're developing a theory and you're basing your theory on what you've seen and not what you've actually witnessed yourself, you're really subject. hostage.
You're really just going out there. I know, I understand the concept completely. But, like, here's another thing I thought about the other night after we talked. How the fuck has the 9/11 victims not had, like, a ceremony every year for the last 10 years?
Why isn't 9/11 a holiday yet?
I mean, I'm not talking about the people in the plane. You never hear about them no more. I remember them publishing a log of who actually was on the plane, but I tried to look for it the other night, and you can't find it.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's the people that were on that plane who are heroes. There's the people who are firefighters and policemen and first responders who are heroes. Like, you know, why isn't 9/11 Remembrance Day? Why isn't it a national holiday? Still, I mean, it should have been. It should have been like.
If that's the case, we got to make Pearl Harbor a holiday too.
Yeah, well, sure, but I mean,
because almost just as many people died in Pearl Harbor.
Seriously, why do we have fucking Columbus Day? The fucking post office is closed on Columbus Day, but we can't get a Pearl Harbor or fucking 9/11. Come on, the fuck? Seriously, like what? 9/11. George Bush should have passed a law to make 9/11 like Remembrance Day, like national holiday, like just as important as anything before he left office. And then the fact that
but what's the grounds of making 9/11 a holiday other than remembrance? I mean, they have Veterans Day for remembering people.
Sure. Why? So why? I mean, isn't it a big enough event that it should be a holiday?
It's Veterans Day.
Why not though? Why does?
Because
I don't understand why it's not as important.
Because there's so many other things that outweigh it.
Like what?
Like the Holocaust.
The Holocaust didn't happen in America.
I understand that, but the fact is, that America found them.
So what?
It's just a bigger tragedy. Like it would look arrogant if we had a holiday.
Come on, man. That's bullshit. If we have to like kiss ass to other fucking people just because like more people died in the Holocaust,
it also would support terrorism. If we have like Remembrance Days and all this thing right here, you basically show them that you've actually messed with our mental psyche.
Oh, well.
But I don't believe in a war against terror anyway. You can't fight a war against something that's, subjective.
I mean, we can't live the rest of our lives like hoping that we don't throw a bone to the fucking terrorists. I mean, I think that's that's a dishonor to all the people who did die or who did, give their lives for other people on that day. I mean, I just think 9/11 should be a fucking national holiday.
I just look at it as subjective like this. I mean, I understand that they came and attacked us first, but how many people did we kill in Iraq, bombing them before we sent the troops in?
Oh, dude, I mean, the reasons why...
Thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Listen here. Like, I don't... And, this is where we're going to get into territory where we're going to start getting, like, fucking Toby Keith sort of people going fucking ape shit in the comments section. But look. The reason why we got attacked by Al-Qaeda is because we've been meddling in the fucking Middle East for decades and decades and decades. You can go all the way back to the coup in Iran. I mean, we supported Saddam Hussein when they were fighting Iran. We were giving them money for weapons then, and before that, we supported Iran when they were fighting Iraq.
And then we had the oil deal with Saddam Hussein too, with George Bush Sr.
That's right. I mean, we will get in bed with anybody as long as we can get fucking some dollars out of it. So, and we've been meddling in the Middle East, since the 50s, I think. Pretty much right after World War II, we started some bullshit over there. So, if people say, I don't know why they attacked us, well, it's because, we've had our fucking hands in other cultures, we've been meddling with them, and then when we're done with them, we abandon them. I mean, look at Afghanistan.
Look at Israel.
We trained Osama bin Laden when he was the Mujahideen when they were fighting the fucking Soviets when they invaded Afghanistan in the 80s. We created the beginnings of Al-Qaeda. And what weapons do you think that they used to fight the Soviets? Fucking American weapons. So, we're not innocent by any means as far as, why did these fucking terrorists come after us? There's reasons why they came after us, but that doesn't mean that what they did was okay or justified. And it doesn't
the reason the terrorists came after us is because we made the oil deal with Saddam Hussein. Beforehand, we were in bed with the Osama family for the oil, because Osama came from oil tycoons. And then we made an oil pact with Saddam Hussein, and we basically give us cheap fucking barrels of oil for as long as we allow him to stay in power. And then we basically double-crossed the Osama family, and he's had a grudge ever since.
Well, yeah.
That's the backstory.
our relationship with the Saudis is very dirty, and there's a lot of double dealing going on, and there's a lot of people who are unhappy about it, including Bin Laden.
And because you got to think about it, George Bush had just got in office, and guess who fucked over Osama's family in the oil business?
Well,
George Bush Sr.
Sure. I mean, if you ask me, the reason why we ended up in Iraq was two reasons. Not only was it all the money that we could profit from, not only military, but in contracting and Halliburton and the connections to Cheney and stuff, but also, George Bush wanted to clean up the mess that his dad didn't clean up. He wanted to show his dad that he was a big shot, and, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him, Dad.
Let me ask you this. I don't know if you remember, but the guy running against Bush in his first term was Bob Dole.
Bob Dole.
And do you think Bob Dole, if he would have got elected back then in those Florida states, that we have had 9/11?
If Bob Dole had been president, would we have had 9/11?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the fact that Bush was president is one of the things that triggered the attack.
I think they were. No. Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I think it's still, maybe it wouldn't happen on that day. Maybe that sped it up by a year or two, but it still would have happened. I mean, this thing, we talked about it before. It's not the first time they attacked the fucking World Trade Center. They attacked them before. Made a car bomb in the basement, right, during the Clinton era, right? So, the Al Qaeda, I think, claimed
so attacked the warship
for the Cole, the USS Cole.
Yeah.
So I mean, they wanted to hit us. I don't think that the fact that George Bush was president was what caused the attack.
Well, after I said it, I started thinking about it. I'm like, it's something like this you got to plan years in advance for.
Exactly. I mean, the resources that they needed to do to set this up, get them in, train them, and orchestrate this whole thing, it was years in the making. So they were planning this attack before Bush was inaugurated, or before the primary, before he even was elected.
It also leads me to say is like, how did nobody stand up in those fucking flights? How many people are on these flights? Like 4?
What do you mean? The ones that hit the towers?
No, yes.
Like, why didn't they do what the people on 93 did?
Yeah.
Maybe they did. We don't know. We don't know what happened. Maybe.
I'm just saying, like, there's enough grown men to outpower 4 to 6 other men with guns.
I know, but it's hard to say how people would react. You've got, you know what I mean? Like, and their ability to... The thing is, the hijackers on the two planes for the towers, they might have been able to pull it off in a way that people knew what was going on. It was too late, and they were already locked in the cockpit. You know what I mean? Because the cockpit can be locked. So with 93, they were able to basically get in there and disrupt them. And it's my guess would just be that the hijackers for the 2 planes that hit the towers were able to hijack the plane and successfully get themselves and lock themselves in the cockpit so that nobody could do shit. I can't believe that on those 2 planes there wasn't somebody who was trying to stop what they were doing. But
well, that shit probably wouldn't happen nowadays. Nowadays, if you're a brown man with an AK in a plane, you're gonna get beat up.
Now there's a guy with a fucking Sig Sauer sitting on the plane somewhere who's gonna fucking get a headshot.
Well, even then, like let's say you're on a plane and you see this guy. He looks like he's from the Middle East. He pulls an AK out. What's the first thing you're thinking about?
An AK-47 on the plane? But didn't they use box cutters?
I don't know what they used.
I'm pretty sure they had box cutters. You can't get an AK on a plane.
Yeah.
Oh, what's in your carry-on? It's just nothing. It's nothing. It's just a replica.
Well, box cutters either way. But with box cutters, man,
I think they used box cutters, man.
Didn't the plane doors lock regardless?
What?
Didn't the fucking pilots things lock just like you said? Like, why would the pilots even open the door?
I think they used the stewardesses to get in. I think that they they grabbed the stewardesses and then had them, held a box cutter up to their throat and had them knock on the door. They probably have some sort of knock that lets the pilots know that it's okay to open, and all they had to do was get in. And pilots are busy.
It's not that fucking secretive, dude.
Well, that's what I mean.
It's more like this, Sure. It's not no secret knock.
Hello? Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know I would hope that there's some kind of protocol for opening up the cabin.
There probably is now, but...
Or even then, it's not like this is the first time planes got hijacked. hijacking has been going on for a while, not so much in the United States, but around the world, especially over in the Middle East, it's been going on for a while. But I would assume there's some sort of light protocol. But I think what they probably did was, they held a box cutter up to some stewardess's throat, and all she had to do was knock on the door, and bam, they're in the cockpit. But so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's some weird shit about 9/11, but I can't believe that. As much as I do strongly believe that the Bush administration falsified the evidence they needed to get us to go to war in Iraq because there was absolutely no need to do it. I'm going to say that I don't think that there was a conspiracy to stage 9/11 in order to go to war with Afghanistan. Because I don't think there was enough of a benefit to going to war in Afghanistan. If we had gone straight to Iraq, then maybe there would be more credence to motivation to stage it. But initially, we just went to Afghanistan. We didn't go to Iraq. It was like, we're going to go to Afghanistan and stop Al Qaeda. And there wasn't really enough profit in that operation, I don't think, to justify killing thousands of people and knocking the trade centers down.
Well, there we have it. That's the 9/11 debate. It's for you to decide. And this has been Chaos Series with your boy Mr. Chaos Math and myself. The video kind of cut out halfway into it. It may look at some bandwidth issues. So enjoy the gameplay. Make sure you please rate the video. It helps it roar. Peace.
Later.
Call you right back.